Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fierce and Flowing podcast. I am Monique Renee, your host, and I am so, if I could sing, delighted to have Paola Arencibia with me today. And some of you may recall that Paola was a guest not long ago. Okay. So I can't tell you how many episodes back, but
It's almost been, I think it was September.
okay.
It's
Okay.
been
So
almost a year. Yeah.
wow, that's
Oh,
crazy. It feels like it was sooner.
that's
But
because we.
yeah, that's because we're like goddesses. Like I only flow with goddesses, and Paola's one of my goddesses. So let's just put that out there. And I happen to be one of her biggest fans. So let's just put that out there as well. But before we get the whole love thing going on, let me tell you a little bit more about Paola. Okay, so I'm going to read her short bio, which is that Paola is the founder of Serious Style. She's a personal stylist and energetic guide who helps women reconnect with their essence through their wardrobe. Her work blends fashion psychology, intuitive insight, and personal transformation. Paola believes your closet holds the key to your next evolution, and I agree 1,000%. And she's here to help you unlock it. Oh my God, I'm so excited because there are parts of this bio that you would not have read in September. And that's why we're gathered here today.
Exactly.
We were like, you need to come back on the podcast because, as you know, many of my guests are women entrepreneurs, women leaders who are in transformation, always transforming themselves, reconnecting to their highest self, to their spiritual self. And you really have done a 180 in your business and how you approach your business. So things like fashion psychologist, intuitive insight. Let's see what else. Personal transformation has always been there, but yeah, there's definitely been an energetic, spiritual shift in your business, and so let's dive in because this is a fierce moment that you've been through since September. I've been a witness to it, the good moments and the bad moments.
Hmm. Yeah.
And which you were just kind of alluding to during this full moon. Okay, so the full moon in Sagittarius was yesterday. We are still in full moon energy. And you were kind of sharing, what you were feeling. But let's stop there. And I want to give you the mic and share with us about this fierce moment and what it entailed.
No, I'm definitely very much in it. So to speak to the full moon, I was having this terrible headache and I realized that I'm like, there's just something I don't want to think about, something I don't want to admit. There's a block there. And this morning, when I went to shout out Adriana Foster and the Loud Network, the exercise she had us do really brought to the forefront what that block was, and it's the generations of women in my family trying to protect themselves by not admitting to their spiritual gifts.
I just got chills. I got
Okay.
chills. I'll tell you one of the reasons why. You brought up generations. My mother is someone I do spiritual work with. My daughter is now beginning to cultivate her spiritual gifts. And I just love walking into her bedroom and seeing her with her journal, with her tarot cards, and asking questions about astrology. Mom, can you look at my chart today? Right? So this opening up and allowance of yes, tapping into our spiritual gifts. Wow. So talk to me more about that block that has shown up.
So, gosh, there's so many things. So the way that my downloads come to me,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and I discovered this through a business mentor, um, is that I have she described it as like this panel of five unruly female spirits, which I knew something to that effect was happening as I was styling, right? But when I was solely fixated on styling people in person in the closet detox, it's like I didn't have to admit that to anybody. And I would just kind of like, listen, or like my mom used to say that I was a terrible listener because I was too busy paying attention.
Ooh. Wow. Okay, that's powerful.
Right. So, and that's a lot of the way, like my clients are talking, but not, and anybody who works with clients knows this, right? Like there's that part, like um, what they're saying is not as important as what's being communicated to you through other means, right?
Correct.
And then when you're somebody who's tapped into your intuition or into your spirituality, one of those other means is this connection that you have.
Yeah.
And it's something that I didn't want to admit, and I didn't necessarily have to admit, because as my client is talking and I'm moving around their space, I had the sort of kinesthetic opportunity to just pull clothes out of the closet. And then my client has that moment of like, oh my God, how'd you do that? No, whatever, it's a miracle of some sort, right?
Yes.
But when the challenge was posed to me, which was necessary for my business, to take my business online and to offer my service virtually, that required that I articulate what I'm doing and what's happening, right? So that I can move my client through it. And I don't have the opportunity to just take out the clothes and show you. I have to say it.
Right.
And admitting that that's what's happening
Hmm.
has been, that's been my fierce moment.
It's like
That
coming out of the closet, you know?
uh,
For me, it was coming out of the spiritual closet. For you, it's the same thing. One of my dear friends, someone who I consult with on a regular basis, Mariel de Moya, M is for medium. She talks about coming out of the spiritual closet. And and she realized her gift at a very, very, very young age, holding that in for so, so long. I think that I feel confident saying that we're finally at a point in the world in this Aquarian age that we're in with Pluto and Aquarius for the next 20 years that we are recognizing our spiritual gifts. More of us are feeling comfortable speaking out about them, utilizing them without judgment, without self-judgment, without feeling like we're going to lose members of our family. They won't love us anymore, or my friends or my clients. That was my fear. My clients and the people and the relationships that I had built in traditional business forever, what are they going to think when I
yeah,
start blogging about spirituality, when I start doing tarot readings, when I, promote astrology? And the opposite was true. The opposite was true. It's so funny because today I just want to share the dichotomy of it and the fact that we just need to be okay with it
hmm
because we're going to lose some people, but we're going to gain others. And the people that we're gaining are our true tribe, right? And so I sent out a Substack article today, and I noticed, two people kind of unsubscribing. And I'm like, okay, no big deal. I know I'm talking about spiritual things. And then immediately another person emails me directly and is like, oh my God, I love this. This is exactly what I needed to hear. And I need you to teach it to me. And then
yeah,
your heart just wells up, and opens
yeah,
up like a bud. But I remember that day that you're like, I don't know if I can do this, but I kind of think I can. Like there's part of it that is like so cool, and I'm starting to get more downloads. I'm starting to recognize how these gifts are showing up even without me physically being in the closet, and it scares the shit out of me.
yeah. It was incredibly, I guess I can say it was overwhelming initially. So when I started to pilot this offering,
Right.
which the style essence reading, and even the word reading, Monique, I don't know if you remember, I was like, it's a style essence session. It's a style, and Nikki Novo, which was mentoring me, she was like, it's a reading, Paola. It's a reading.
Yes. Let's pause here for a second because I want to make sure that people understand what you did before. Like before it was the closet detox. What exactly was the closet detox? What did you have to do? How long did it take? All of that. For the
So the closet,
business people, that are listening to this, because you really did shift your business model completely.
so to get everybody up to speed, I mean, as we know, when you start a business, you kind of you're in sort of a dialogue with it, and it has to sort of reveal itself to you. So when I started styling, and I spoke about this in our previous podcast episode, that I had a partner, and we're like, well, we're gonna go in and we're gonna look for outfits in people's closets, and then we're gonna shop for their stuff or whatever. And then when I bought her half of the business and I was on my own, um, I realized very naturally what was going on in the closet is that what's in your closet is a reflection of your self-talk. Okay. And that what the business had revealed itself to be was a journey through that self-talk. And so the closet detox developed finally into the session that still is an option for my clients today. 6 hours, a 6 hour session in person where I hear you out, or at least I'm paying attention. And based on how you're dressing yourself, I was already intuitively picking up on really what was going on there. What were the blocks? What were the energy shifts you were craving? And I was teaching my clients in those 6 hours how to use their clothes to feel a certain way. So again, I didn't really have the language for it, but I knew this, that in those 6 hours, my clients were going to first learn how to dress themselves, because when I guided them to style their clothes in a certain way, they would have this like aha moment, this energetic alignment. Again, I have that language now. I didn't have that language then.
No, you didn't use it then. However, with me, I have to say, maybe because I was spiritual that you felt comfortable, but immediately with me, you're like, shut up, everybody, shut up.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
were
it's
talking
funny.
to those five people in your head. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
calm
it's
down,
funny.
everybody, calm down.
That was a running joke with my clients. I couldn't help but say that almost every session, where I would say, everybody calm down. And then my clients would laugh because there's only two of us and no one was talking. So everybody calmed down. But my clients would have that moment, right? And so the reason that the session was 6 hours was because regardless of how many clothes we went through or how big or small your closet was, I was a teacher in my previous life. 6 hours was the time required for a really good lesson,
Yeah,
for me to really sit with you and to have you practice getting into that space, right? So that was the closet detox. And like I said, a lot of this was unspoken.
yeah.
It was just it was, which is also a really great way for a client to learn, right? Because then by the last 2 hours of the session, the client is the one going, picking the stuff
Right, right.
and
Yeah.
going, no, this feels better.
Yeah, and I want to keep interjecting kind of the business model, for those of you out there, because I know that I'm going through that now, a kind of an adjustment in my business, and then recognizing I'm going to have to adjust my model again and get serious about changing my business model so that I don't get to a place where I'm exhausted, right? Because you have to be there physically
Yes.
for 6 hours. And that means, we're in Miami. If you have a client in Boca, if you have a client in Del Rey, Naples, Florida, you're going to have to drive to them. That takes up a lot of your time, a lot of prep time, a lot of before and after time, and you get to a point in your business where you're limited. There's only so many clients you can see. Yeah.
Right, 100%, because I wanted this. I mean, I recognize that something like a personal stylist, um, it comes within a certain price range, but I wanted it to be
Yeah.
accessible
Yes.
enough,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So it can I never wanted to have a model where it's like, well, it's $10,000 a day to
No,
see,
no.
but that wasn't the only physical hurdle. My client also emotionally had to be in a place where they would allow me into their closet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's two, and again, I love still the in-person, and that's still an option if you're in my area, right? Um, but
Yeah, it almost builds like a little veil. Let's continue with the spiritual analogies. A little veil of protection and safety and comfort between you and the client, to feel safe in this first leg of the journey, right? And so now what has it shifted to?
well, So now I do it virtually. So the initial offering is a style essence reading, as I mentioned, which is 90 minutes. And because there's this kind of focused attention, right? Like right now, if we were in session, that is just, the two of us looking at each other, um, I'm able to get those downloads and then using my, just my people skills, my soft skills, my teacher skills, um, get the information that I need so that I can connect that download to my client and provide her with the image that she needs, with the practical advice that she needs, so that she can go off into her closet without having to buy a single thing and really start to shift the energy within herself. And really, I don't think that it's an overstatement to say to start transforming her life.
Right.
Usually when a client comes to me, whether it's for the in-person or for the style essence reading, there are other things going on, right? She's at some inflection point.
Yeah.
And definitely, and you and I know this because of the kind of people that we work with, women who are really looking to up level
Yeah.
see the value in this kind of investment, understand that like the secret sauce to success is not something that's always so easily quantifiable.
No.
Not everything lives in a spreadsheet.
Mm.
And so it's been really amazing because like my friendship with you and my friendship with so many of the women that I've met over the last few years has been a testament to how spirituality works within our lives, which has allowed me to know that I'm going to land safely
Hmm.
in this coming out. However, it's been really hard
Yeah. So
emotionally.
let's talk about the first session you did, right? Because I know that you had some trial sessions
Mhm.
to test it out, to kind of push you to give yourself permission to try and do your business in a different way. And I think at that point, you still didn't know it was a reading. You didn't know what it was going to be. It was just a session at that point. But
Right.
if you if you have you don't have to share people's names or anything, but if you want to share like a little bit, maybe from one or two of the sessions, like how it went and kind of how it blew your mind,
Yeah.
I think that would be awesome to hear that.
So what was happening in like the first session that I was doing, it was an opportunity for then the person I was doing the session with to sort of give me some feedback, right? And so I was getting the downloads, speaking freely, and then she would come back and ask me, "Well, what were you thinking then? What was going on?" Sort of to help me like make it sort of a little curriculum for myself so I could stay grounded in the experience. Well, after that initial sort of like it was almost like a meta session, right? Where it's like I
Yeah.
got to go through the session and then go back and analyze it. I felt like all of my spiritual channels like came online.
Wow.
And I don't know if you, I mean, it's like, I don't know if you remember, I was like, everywhere I would go, I was like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like just getting downloads and seeing all kinds of things. So I booked a few clients. And what I ask my clients for are, you know, give me some, what's brought you to this moment? Like, what are you going through right now? What's brought you to this moment? And if they'll allow me access to their Instagram, right? Just so I can see them because that is how I absorb or start to trigger these downloads.
Right. In essence, I guess using Nikki Novo's language, you're almost like through their permission accessing their soul, right? It's like a soul reading.
It's a soul reading, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's a soul reading. And so, I mean, it was wild. So the first kind of cold session that I had after that one, I got this download that the woman I was meeting with, all I kept seeing was like Athena, the mythical character of Athena, being born. Athena's born from Zeus's head. And we're in session for a little bit of getting to know her, and she says to me, I feel like I'm the son my father never had. And I was like,
Yes, being
I
born
mean, and she
of
even looks
Zeus's
like, I
head.
mean, she's like blue-eyed and black hair and like, um, and so when I shared that vision with her, it really resonated. Um, and the downloads. And there was another one, uh, and sometimes a client will provide me with somebody with whom they really resonate,
Right, like an archetype.
like an archetype or
A
a
real
celebrity.
person. Yeah.
A real person, yeah,
hmm
which is what I was doing in the closet detox.
hmm
I was trying because what happens is when you tell me that like you really want to tap into J-Lo's essence or really want to dress like J-Lo, I'm not going to dress you like J-Lo. But when you say that to me, it's creating a shorthand that allows me to see what your soul's essence is. If
Yes.
you want to feel bolder, you want to feel braver, you want to be more of a businesswoman, maybe you want to be sexier, it takes a little digging, but it's a great, great start.
Yeah.
And it anchors this in a way that we can share this language, right? That's not just living in my imagination. So I had another client, another session where she told me that Hailey Bieber was her inspiration. And it's funny because I'm looking at her and she's all like beachy and like soft, and Hailey Bieber is like so severe,
Yeah.
her style, right? Is really sleek,
Edgy.
edgy and sleek and
hmm
okay, so that tells me a lot, and I actually really love that when your current style is so different from your
Different. Yeah.
it's so much fun. That tension really creates like a lot of room to play. But as I was talking to her, and we got to a certain emotional moment, which was necessary, um, she says to me, "Paola, wow, I really felt that in my throat," and I was like, "Wow, that's funny because for some reason my ankles are activated."
Yes.
And she says to me, I've been dealing with an ankle injury for 5 years and I just had it x-rayed yesterday. And that's where Monique, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
I know.
I'm
It's
like,
scary,
ah.
but it's also really freaking cool. Like I remember when I had a Facebook community. I mean, I would do this in my private readings, but when I had a Facebook community, because there was a lot of energy, and we have so many people there, even though you can't see them, I would come on once a week and do quick readings, quick 3 card readings. And a couple of times I had, like, I would just start feeling tingling in a certain place, and I started feeling tingling. It had nothing to do with the cards that I was reading, but I always like to say where I'm feeling something. I'm feeling a little bit of energy here. I'm feeling a little bit of energy on the left leg. So, two examples were the head. She was like, I just had brain surgery like a few weeks ago. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Interesting. Okay. And then I had another client I did a reading for, and I said, she was asking questions about her parents who were transitioning, traveling and, moving from one place to another. And it was causing a lot of turmoil. And I said, for some reason, I'm feeling a lot of energy in my left leg. And she said, my mother cannot use her left leg. So it's just, it's just, I don't know. For me, it just feels like an affirmation. For me, it feels like a little tap from spirit saying, you're on track. You're right on. What you're
You know,
communicating, what you're thinking, what you're feeling is accurate, you know?
I had a friend explain it this way that I thought was really beautiful. And she said, that's spirit. You've invoked spirit. And when you share something like that with your client, that's spirit providing you with a means of gaining their confidence,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Which is important in this
which is
field of work.
important. Yeah, I thought, yeah, yeah,
Like they're
because
all charlatans. Well,
right. I mean, and even though obviously the people that come to us understand that
yes.
what we do, and so this was like so in terms of my own personal like fierce moment, right? I was still at that time kind of like, yeah, this is the survey. I'm like sort of like tiptoeing around what was going on. And I started to notice that people like the women who were showing up to these sessions, particularly because of the funnel in with which they were getting there, really just wanted to see this show.
Yeah.
They were like all in. They
Yeah.
just wanted me, to really just pop off on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to sort of like let myself accept that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
instead of
Absolutely.
constantly apologizing or kind of like, well, this is, you let me know if this is, when I
Yeah.
knew and when I know when I'm right, or at least I'm right in the sense that I'm clear in what the message is,
Right.
I can't control obviously how somebody receives it.
Sure.
But it was really interesting that they were like, no, I'm here to hear, the five unruly women speak through you.
Yes.
And even the way that we're talking about this now, as you know, Monique, like a month ago, I don't think I would have been, I couldn't talk about it as
No.
freely as I am now.
No, no. You truly, from what I know and working in this field for a long time now and working with women who have been slowly opening their closet door, it takes a while usually for people to accept it and just go with it. And I feel like your embracing of it and ownership of it has been very, very quick,
Mm.
right? So I'm curious, and I'm sure other people would be curious, like, why do you think? Like, how are you supporting yourself? Is there anything that you're doing on a regular basis? Is it the communities you're surrounding yourself with? Like, what do you think is helping you to say yes to this in such a big way and to own it?
Well, as a Capricorn sun and a Capricorn rising, um, I'm going to be 50 at the end of this year. And I feel my ambition really activated.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and to have said to myself very soberly, you are going to make this happen. This business is going to serve and it is going to succeed. And then when you say to the universe, no matter what, buckle up, right? So,
just got chills, by the way, confirmation. And that's my confirmation.
so in
Yeah,
that commitment, I have to accept it. I have
yeah.
to accept that this is what has come to me. And that's not to say that I don't retract because I had, so I kind of had this moment and I had these few weeks or these couple of months of just like, wow, and okay, now let me try this service and I'm gonna, and connecting, and wow, and then all of a sudden the retraction,
Hmm.
right? And the doubts and the I don't know, and is this thing and nobody wants to hear this and da, 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 and then the headaches. And so it's not that those things come and I'm like, oh, I see, universe, thank you for the path and I'm gonna take this. No way. I mean,
No,
I've been freaking the fuck out, freaking out. So yeah, I have my friendships and I have my community,
yeah,
and um it's that, and it's a lot of tears,
yeah.
and a lot of meditation and a lot of um discipline, in the sense of, like, for example, I'm not sure when this is coming up, but we're in the month of June. So like for all of June, um, I don't want to have alcohol.
Yeah,
I do some form of exercise every single day,
yeah,
even if it's just go for a 5-minute walk.
yeah,
Um, and I meditate
yeah.
every single day because I have to honor this vessel, but it's really hard.
It is. Yeah,
That level of sobriety, in the sense of not just from the typical things that we say that we're like, not just drugs or alcohol, right? But the sobriety of like, I'm just gonna sit with my feelings. I think that also I had to be this old, this mature
yeah,
to do that,
yeah.
you know, and to be where I am.
There's a reason why, in astrology, the North Node lessons really begin after the age of 40, right? And I wrote an article about this not long ago in Substack, but every decade of life has its purpose, and the decade of the 50s, the 40s is in some way about just really like powering through, like being the warrior, right? Like for women, it's accessing that male energy, right? The male version of us and owning it. I know I did that in my 40s. It was, very empowering. And then in your 50s, it's really about owning your voice, going back to like who I really am at my core. And I do get to reinvent myself from that space, from that sacred space, making things more sacred. taking care of our vessels. In the 50s, it's very important to take care of our bodies, to do a lot of that clearing, and so you're right on track, and you're now it's heading towards that destiny point, that ultimate lesson that is not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be, oh, we turn 40 and we're there. No, like we have to work it. We have to make hard decisions. Like, do I really want to, transform my business into online? Is it possible? And feeling the resistance of it and allowing yourself to show up as who you are with your new gifts.
Oh, and not to mention, my dear friend,
Yes,
as we know, all business is show business.
it is.
So knowing that now with this digital offer, I have to have a digital presence, at least to have the success I want to have, the
Right.
success that I'm moving towards,
Yes.
have this digital presence. So it's not just like, oh, I now, I have these spiritual gifts and I'm speaking this to the same, 25 people that I see regularly.
No.
I'm putting it out there to people I don't even think about.
Yeah.
And to do the work when, you know, you start to get 1,000 more followers, which is something that happened to me, right? I grew by 1,000 followers. This is even before
Yes,
I
yes, I remember. I remember that day.
I had like certain little things started to happen. Like I started to speak more genuinely even before I had done the shifted to the reading or virtually, but I started to show up more genuinely online. And so I had these like, these videos I would get a bunch of views and I kind of grew by 1,000 followers. And I was like, okay. But then again, the universe is like, no, 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 but that's not really that was barely even step one.
That was just a
Uh,
taste.
yeah, that's just so yeah, because we had to get you to a certain amount
Yeah.
of exposure. So now where I am, and I recently started doing these like weekly style energy readings. And so I have these like I have this old friend, and I know, by the way, I know he's gonna watch this because he just watches and trolls all my shit.
Okay. Hello, old friend.
Hello, old friend. He trolls all my shit. And and I'm really glad he does because that's another layer of this whole thing. You're not, some people are going to be like, wow, that's amazing. You changed my life. And some people are going to push back
Right.
or just be asshole or whatever. Or they're bored or they're on their toilet,
Yeah, yeah,
texting,
yeah. And they're like, this is not for
whatever.
me. Let me just move on. Yeah.
Yeah, but people don't do that. People want to push back. I had said something about, because, for example, when, everyone's obviously soul essence is unique, but how do I keep you? But I keep you on trend, right?
Yes.
Even without being trendy,
Right.
because there is a collective energy
Yeah.
and we're always engaged with that. So it's not gonna, your soul's essence isn't in a vacuum. Like,
No.
yeah, you're gonna look like you're of the time that you're
Well,
in.
our soul is here to play on earth. Like we're not here to just float, like no.
Yeah,
Like
even if you told me that your soul's energy is Athena, right? Like
yes.
ancient Greek mythology, but she's still gonna show up in a damn fine, button
Yeah.
down polo or whatever
And
it
that's
is.
where spirituality gets practical. You know that I have like three different archetypes I play with,
Hmm.
right? I play with the very spiritual archetype, who, like today you could say I kind of use that archetype a little bit. I've got my beautiful bird here and my spirit animal. And but yesterday I did a corporate workshop. I can't show up like this at a corporate workshop because again, I have to support the environment of the work that I'm doing to make an impact.
Exactly.
So I'm a spiritual person, and no matter what work I do, I want it to be impactful. I want to change people's lives. So whether I'm using the language of astrology, tarot, magic, whatever, or using the language of strengths finder, business model, blah, 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 I it's okay for me to show up with that version of myself, which is still authentic, right? So, I think sometimes we believe that once we open the spiritual door, that we can't live in the earthly world. And in the earthly world, we get to play with fun clothes and styles of the time, and it's a yes and, right?
And I would even take it further, Monique,
Yeah,
because like if everything is energy, then everything is energy, and your
correct.
clothes are energy. The work, when you're with your clients in a corporate setting, those tools um, are are an energetic presence.
They
They're
are.
just they're just masked in a particular language, right?
Right.
Um, so it's really understanding that it's all the same thing, and you pick your vehicle to, because depending on, yes, on the nature of this body, um, it's gonna, we're gonna interpret it, accept it, whatever it is for some people. For me, it's clothes, right?
Yeah.
That's my language.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not talking to you about clothes. I'm talking to you about you. I'm talking to you about your soul, but I'm using clothes as a language.
Absolutely. And I know that regardless, leave out the spirituality, the process of doing this, what it does is allow you to feel beautiful. It allows you to accept your physical body and feel comfortable and feel beautiful in the outfits that you choose. And I think that's really important. Because a lot of individuals, I know I felt that way sometimes, that I would look at the clothes in my closet and go, I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to wear any of it. And because I don't want to wear any of it because I don't feel good in it,
Right.
I'm just not gonna go out today.
Yeah.
And so I
Well,
avoid
yes.
enjoying you know, the world, and that's not okay, right? And that's not okay.
I have to say this. In a in the millions of networking groups that I'm a part of, in a cohort that I was in the other day. Um, Nothing to do with my business, right? I was observing, and somebody said something like, "Oh, because I really want to focus on getting my health in order in my body." And she said something that she's not the only person that's ever said it, and I hear it all the time. She's like, "I know that seems superficial. If I could erase one thought from all of our minds, is this idea that the way our bodies and our body image affects us is a superficial thing, that would be the thing I would want to eradicate. Because not only do we punish ourselves with
Yeah,
the messaging that we get from our family, from society, from whatever it is, the fashion industry about our body, on top of that, we tell ourselves that we're not supposed to feel that way. When, like you said, and I love that you shared that, think about all of the things that you don't do when you feel like crap in your body.
yeah,
Because even if you do manage to get dressed and get out of the house,
yeah.
you don't show up the same, you
No,
don't draw attention.
no.
How dare we say that that's superficial? It is the most important thing.
Yeah,
This is your first home.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the number one thing. Now, it's not to say that we have to look any one way.
No,
That's
we just have to feel good with what we've chosen. Yeah, and take it further. If I have to happen to be in an emotional state where I decide to just blow it all up, not only am I going to not go anywhere, but I'm probably going to sit on the couch way too long, eat the wrong foods, drink, alcohol, and, do the things that are just going to amplify that feeling,
that are
right?
going to
And it's
disconnect
the
us.
opposite of self-care, which so
Exactly.
many of us at our age are really prioritizing, these days. So it's like a domino effect.
Because it's the disconnect. We
Yeah,
want to disconnect from the feeling.
yeah,
And that's really, if I can say that the mission of Serious Style is anything, is when you re-engage with your closet, you're re-engaging with your body. And when you're re-engaging with your body, you're re-engaging with your emotions.
Absolutely. I love that. And, I have to say, I think we've talked about it, but, I'll share with everybody. I have a tool that most of my clients use called the Flow Roadmap. And essentially, the foundation of the Flow Roadmap is one form of astrology. I use different forms of astrology, but for this one, it's 9 star key, which is feng shui astrology, very earthy, and the gift of the flow roadmap really is to help us flow, right? So it shares with us not only the parts of ourself that we need to light up, to be authentic, to be on purpose, to remind ourselves of who we are and how unique we are, but also the energy of the year that we need to pay attention to, right? Because it's guiding us in our transformation and we're always transforming, right? And so we were talking the other day about, should this be happening? All of this that I'm going through, should it be happening like in my dream year? Because you're in your dream year,
Yes.
right? And and I love these conversations because again, I can have 10 different clients who are in all in a dream year and it shows up differently for everybody, right? But the dream year is a new beginning, right? So last year you were in your spotlight year, which is the ending of a 9 year cycle. Okay. And that's typically when we start to close the door on something and begin to open the door to something new. But in order to get to the something new, we have to put on this hat called the dreamer, right? And the dreamer, many of us think that, oh, if I'm starting a whole new 9 year cycle, then that means I gotta know what I'm doing. Our type A personalities have to know what I'm doing. I have to have my plan. I have to have my goals, and I need to just go get it. And it's the complete opposite. The dream year is about preparing ourselves really for the change that's coming. And and we do that by being creative, by tapping into our spirituality, by opening up our psychic channels, listening to what is true for us, where life wants to guide us. It's almost that feeling of waking up in the morning and going, what do I feel like doing today? What's guiding me, right? And tapping into the spirit, tapping into the creativity, and allowing ourselves to play so that the work shows up.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what has happened
Well,
for
I have to
you.
say that, and you and I talk about this a lot. You know how much the Flow Roadmap has supported me, particularly since you break it down month to month.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to say out loud that, yes, I'm in a hurricane month. But the dream year, now 6 months into it, when I think about the way that I feel my emotions now, as opposed to the way I did last year, it's like I feel like my subconscious is so much more available to me. And that's
Yeah.
that's how I would describe the dream year.
Oh my God, I
Like,
love it. Okay, because when I usually describe the energies and how they flow from one into the other, the dream year is the energy of water. Okay.
yes,
Water is very psychic, very spiritual. Why? Because water is like the womb of the mother, where creation happens, where pure potential is, where the baby is born, right? But while the baby is in utero, it is still connected to spirit and connected to earth, right? So we are still super psychic. We're not here and we're not there. We're both, yeah? And so that is why we say the veil is so thin
yes,
with the dream year, and why so many people who actually have this archetype naturally, my primary archetype, they tend to be very artistic, very creative, very go with the flow. They like freedom. Eventually, they want to be entrepreneurs if they're not already. They don't like too many boundaries. They are deeply attracted to spirituality in some way, shape, or form, whether it's mystical or religious, and so in a dream year, it's important to kind of pay attention to all of it and how it's showing up. And the other thing that I want to say is when you feel a lot of fear, like you did today at the
yeah,
meeting, say to yourself, oh yeah, that's the dreamer, reminding me that I'm doing the work. Because imagine the deep, deep, dark waters, right? Where we can't see anything. We don't know where we are. The emotion associated with water and the dream mirror is fear. The shadow is fear. So
Yeah,
just pointing that out.
it's the abyss,
It's the
right?
abyss.
When you stare into the abyss, it stares back, doesn't it?
But you really are tapping with your pure potential right now. And with the shift of this business model, with those moments where you're feeling the ecstasy of your creativity, of your spiritual abilities, and then also like again being brought back. It's almost like the moment where we're sucked out of the womb and we take our first breath and we're like, where the fuck am I?
Well, we scream.
I scream. Oh shit.
I mean, like the sign of health is that you're screaming.
Right. Why is this person slapping me and why?
Yeah, it's like it's necessary for us to start screaming and
And
get
we start to
check
forget.
mark.
And in that moment, we start to forget, right? So the dream year is let's remember.
Yeah,
Let's remember our gifts. Let's remember who we are because we all have the gifts. And sometimes for you, it feels like it was just giving yourself permission in order for like opening the door, in order for these gifts to just go, to just drop in,
yeah,
you know? And oh, I love it. I love this journey.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I always wait for your calls. When I see that Paola has texted, I'm like, oh shit. Is this an oh shit moment? Is it a fear moment or is it a dream ecstatic moment, right? And
Yeah,
I
I was
love,
like, oh, you can't believe what just happened. I just
yeah,
saw through
I
walls.
love all of it. I love all of it because I get to remind you that when you're in the oh shit moment, what do you do in this practice? You call in the element, right? You find the flow through the element. You ease the pain through the element. So you bring in water, right? So water is laying down horizontal, so rest,
Yeah,
hydrate, um, breathe, right? Meditation. Do anything that is spiritual that allows you to tap into your inner self. Um, Detach yourself from others, right? Um, so there's so many ways that we can, go to the water,
yeah.
shower, take a tub. There's so many ways that we can use the element, but yeah, that's typically what I tell you, right? Like, okay, disconnect, go sleep, just go breathe.
That is what you tell me. No, and definitely like I like this the birth metaphor that you were using because I think I don't know if this is something that's a part of like hypnotherapy practices or whatever it is, but I remember over the years hearing about like how we sort of mimic our birth, as we birth new things throughout life. So if there's like a
Hmm.
lot of trauma in your birth, like whenever you're trying to birth something new, there's going to be a lot of trauma or that we're almost always kind of like recreating emotionally that experience. That's why I think they, we talk a lot now, right? We were born into a different generation, but like
Yeah.
about how important it is to be in your mother's chest and all that stuff
Yes.
after you're born, right? Like those are
Yes.
things that we recognize now. And the reason I say that is because in in like my own like manifestation practice and my own meditation practice, where we try to map out our um like the way in which we manifest, right?
Hmm.
I have these moments of like I feel sometimes like maybe in birth I was just like I didn't want to go I did not want to go towards the light, right? Because yesterday, for example, back to the full moon was like I said, like a day of a headache and just so much pain coming up for me. And then almost like as that pain was like reaching an apex, I could be like, okay, so I'm going to wake up early, tomorrow morning. I'm going to go to Boca Raton and I'm going to tell everybody that I read their souls. Like, it's like I have to get to that really hard pain point.
Yeah. Yeah, you
At least,
push yourself.
well, it's funny. I catching my language. I don't have to, but I have been. That's been my pattern, which I
Yeah.
can change. Is
Yes.
to get to this point of resistance, and then I can better embrace
Yeah.
what's coming next. And so back to that meeting that we've been referring to, so that people know what we're talking about. So I drove up to that meeting, and as I was sitting there, I'm like, I am ready. I am ready to talk about what I do in these terms. And I did it, and I felt really magnetic. I got 8 followers.
Dude, why did I say dude? Goddess.
God, yeah.
Goddess. Perfect. Full moon in Sagittarius. Boom. Your voice.
Yeah.
That's what Sagittarius is all about. It's our highest self. It's speaking our highest self, expressing our highest self. Like you did the work. You did the freaking work.
Yeah. And as I was driving back, because it was a long drive, that um vulnerability hangover starts to creep in, and that fear, like you were describing, about that emotional feeling, the
Yeah,
fear that is the
yeah,
water,
yeah.
starts to creep in. And I have to say that knowing that I was meeting with you, and that goes back to the support, right?
Sure.
Knowing that I was meeting with you for this interview, I was like, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be safe. Like I'm going into a safe space.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a cycle. It's a bit of a roller coaster. This is not for the weak.
It really isn't. It really isn't, right? And the dream year being water, you're gonna encounter a few tsunamis. You're gonna encounter the very still beautiful lake that doesn't move. And then you're gonna encounter some tsunamis, and then you have to ride the wave and you have to support yourself, so you don't go under. And you may go under and swallow some water every now and then, but you come back up, right? And do
Okay,
the
so
work. Swallow a little salt water.
you gotta get out of your ear.
Oh, this has been awesome. What a great conversation. I am so proud of you. I just have to say, I mean, I think the biggest part of the work that I do and also just the friendships that I build through the work that I do is that I get to see the transformations. I get to experience the transformations and be a part of it, right? In some way, shape, or form, support it in some way, shape, or form. And that's why we have these conversations on this podcast, right? It's about being fierce, but then learning how to get into flow through the fierceness
Yeah,
and um and use our gifts and share our gifts, and the right people will will come to the party, right? The right people will come
100%.
to the party.
No, and that you're like you're so fluent in so many of these languages, from astrology to tarot to, of course, the flow roadmap. Like, it makes everything so accessible. It allows our brains, like if we can't perhaps wrap our minds around, like for me, astrology is still something that comes is very like abstracted for me. It's hard for me to picture what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, so, but then tarot, because it's like the cards and the pretty pictures, I can, that grounds me.
Yeah.
And then definitely the flow roadmap just has this like, it really speaks to my Capricorn brain. Um, I mean, because it just really does feel like that, like what it is, like a roadmap where I can anticipate. Because I think a lot of times, particularly as entrepreneurs, these spiritual tools are so important to us because everything is so uncertain when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What's interesting, the more businesses grow and the more we achieve, and we start to meet people at those, because you don't have access to the top players when you're
No.
starting, right? But then as you start to get a name for yourself and you start to, then you start to, hey, then you start to
Yeah.
meet people at a different level, and you realize everybody's got these tools.
Yes.
The higher, I mean,
They
not
do.
that,
I still have moments where I feel like I'm following a guru, right? Like I learned from others. My to go practical for a moment, my number one talent and strengths finder is learner. Like I'm here to learn and learn from others, and then I take that learning and I create my own teachings, and that's what I'm here to do. But every now and then you get sucked up in the world of of a guru who you make up stories about them, right? And recently I was in a program, and I had made up this story in my mind just because of what I was experiencing. in the limited access that I had of this person that I said, yeah, yeah, he's probably not into, astrology or human design or anything. He's not giving me that vibe. He's giving me the very logical, practical vibe. And so I'm not, gonna share that with him. Then a week later, on his podcast, he has a guest who is like one of the most renowned human design, coaches who I love and follow. And I'm like, we separate ourselves from these people up here who we think, have made it, and they're human like us, and they do use the same tools,
Yeah.
and this is what prevents us from getting to that next phase where we're allowing ourselves to expand, you
Yeah,
know?
because we think that they're on a pedestal or we other them.
Correct. And they got there just like we're getting there.
Yeah.
Right? And others get there faster, and that's why we have astrological charts because we all have our own story. We do all have our own roadmap, and some of us are not meant to shine at very public levels. Others of us are. Some of us are meant to, but we're going to get there in our own time. We're not going to get there super quick or at the age of 13 or, for some
Yeah.
of us it's going to be 75,
Like I read a review, like just it was a quick thing, and the reporter who was writing on it like jumped all over it because Michelle Obama has a new podcast. And apparently at some point she says something like, "Oh, the reason this and that happened is because both you and I are Capricorns." And so the reviewer jumped all over that. That's the only thing that's the only mention she made of it. But the reviewer was like, "What?" She knows her astrology, she knows this stuff. And
Yeah.
so again, we tend to think that,
Yeah, I think today and now is about breaking all those barriers. I
yeah,
I do it every day. I learn in a new way every day. Like I had an experience in my 20s, I was working for a job and I was in the building and of course, I'm a lifelong astrology, lover since I was a kid. And I was in the bathroom and I was washing my hands and this woman walks in, super nice. I always said hi to her every day, washing our hands, and we were having a conversation. And because of the conversation, I asked her, "Oh, what sign are you?" And she said, "Oh my God." And she made the sign of the cross. And she said, "I don't believe in that," and walked out. And that I was
yeah,
like, "Oh God, what did I do?" So
yeah,
that kind of like scarred me. That was one of those little scars that doesn't go away. And so sometimes I run into this thought, this assumption. Assumptions are dangerous. I always talk about that. That, oh, every person who's religious does not believe in astrology. Hello, not true. Every single day I run into someone who is like uber Christian, uber whatever, uber Catholic, and they start talking about astrology or they start talking about their human design. And I'm like, I love this. I love this. We are in the era of
yeah,
breaking all of those molds, and it feels like a breath of fresh air,
yeah, it
you
really
know?
does.
Yeah. But all right, let us wrap up because we can talk forever.
Yeah.
Um, Paola, let us know how you can be reached, how individuals can do your essence, your soul essence reading, and where they can find you now on TikTok and Insta. Okay, let's talk about that. So
Well, definitely Instagram is the best place to find me, and my handle there is at @SeriousStyle_MIA. You'll link these in the show
I will
notes.
link all of this in the bio, in the
Okay.
show notes. Yeah,
There are several ways to work with me. Definitely, I encourage you to book your Style Essence reading. It's a 90-minute session, and I'll provide a coupon code for your listeners
fabulous.
to get $100 off. That'll be for the summer. Take advantage.
Hello, ladies and gents. A
And
hundred
gents, yeah,
dollars.
definitely.
Gents. She does gents too. $100 off. I love it. Thank you.
And if if that seems like it's maybe a little bit out of your comfort zone, I do have a PDF. It's called the Closet Redemption. It's an energetic exercise for you to do self-guided um, with you in your closet.
It's
Uh,
so good, people. Honestly, $7. It's so good. Try it
yes,
out.
thank you. And that's also $7 for now. The price is going to go up, so take advantage of that. And and then if you want to take it from there, all the information's on my website, but just go ahead and start at Instagram. That'll lead
Okay.
you all the places you need to find, and also, of course, in your show notes.
All right. All right, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for showing up today
Thank
to this
you.
beautiful space. Thank you all who are listening. Please share this with someone who needs to hear it and leave us a comment. And please rate this podcast because it really helps us get more listeners and to continue sharing these messages. So thank you, and we will see you all very soon. Take care.